everyone. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to today's version of GCC's Georgia Chiro Connection. I'm your host, Dr. Kathy, and joining us from Michigan, we have Dr. Jackie Vaughn. Hi, Dr. Jackie.
Hi,
How are you today?
I'm fabulous. How about yourself?
Absolutely wonderful. Listen, I want to thank you first
Good.
and foremost for coming on, because for Georgia docs and the students we have around here, we do this every week and try to bring some insight, some advice, some inspiration, motivation, whatever it may be, some philosophy, so that we can help docs and students really stay fired up so that they can do a great job serving their community, loving their life, enjoying their practice, and really sticking strong with the principle and following what it is that we do with so much passion that we exude it for our community. So you have done exactly that for a very, very long time. Am I correct?
Correct. 43 years.
43 years in practice. I guarantee you have a lot of stories and have learned a lot of lessons in that time.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Dr. Jackie, as a woman, because I know sometimes as women, when we are the business owner, we are also the mom. We are also the one working with the staff. We're doing multiple jobs, wearing multiple hats. We don't seem to get time off. Can you talk to us a little bit about what that means for you, having been in practice for so long?
Well, being in practice and having my own practice, of course, solo practice, I could pick and choose my hours and the days when my children are very little, because I've always said that when you have children, to me, it's an 18-year commitment.
Yes.
So I could, if they had a Christmas party or a Thanksgiving party or whatever, I would take the time off. And I had that ability because I had a husband that also supported me and helped financially.
And that's nice to have that partnership, because I know not everybody does have that ability, but to be able to be flexible in our schedules for our children, I think is such a blessing that being a chiropractor provides. I know I love to do that as well. Down here in Georgia, we get a break every 6 weeks from school. So we just made a decision that the children and I do something every 6 weeks. We go on vacation, we go where they want to go. They get to pick, they get to decide, they get to help plan. And we just close the office because you know what? The patients are going on break anyway. So why not? Why not go and enjoy life? It's a very short time. Those 18 years are flying by really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we were talking a little bit before we came online, and I said 43 years in practice. You know, there's stories that we've seen, there's experiences that we've had, but there's also work-related injuries that we experience. And after being in practice for that long, there are certain parts of your body. For me, it's my shoulder. You know, this goes back to a car accident many, many years ago. But for me, it's my shoulder that starts to become an issue practicing. And after practicing for 43 years, I'm sure you've got some lessons you've learned.
Oh, absolutely. My shoulders have held up pretty well. It's actually my hips. I remember in school, they always told us to walk the table, go around, walk the entire table. Don't stay on the one side that you're familiar with. Well, I didn't listen to them. I like to stay on the one side, and I actually ended up with a hip replacement.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wrists are also starting to fall apart a little bit, but it was my hip, not my shoulders. But I still go for it.
And you're still adjusting.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think that we learn ways to compensate, but we also learn ways to modify our adjustments. So for me, that means I don't side posture people that are, when they're on the table and they're inside posture. If they're up here on me, I don't
Yes.
side posture them anymore. I lower my tables as much as I can, but if they are that big that I can't get around them, I'm going to do drop work on them. But most people, I still side posture. That's a modification that I make. So can you tell us something that can maybe help a doc who's just coming into practice to not head down that same pathway and not have those injuries?
Well, again, walk around the table, use all of your body when you're adjusting people, and find out what works for you. I very rarely do side posture anymore. I mainly do drops. I also mainly do my cervicals in the chair. It seems to be less offensive to my wrists.
Very smart. And there's modifications. That's the big thing. I know I had a doctor who was the father-in-law of one of my classmates, and he was very involved with the school back in the early 90s. And one of the things that he taught us was how to side posture to protect our shoulders, right? How to not do these weird positions, but how to scoop. And there are things that I've learned that I've worked with to help my body to pass on to the students as well. So, Dr. Jackie, what are some of the other lessons that you've learned in practice that could help some of our students that are watching?
One of the main things that I always tell any of my patients that are talking about going to chiropractic school, or just people in general that are talking about it, um, the schools give you a great, great education. There's no question about that. But what I found when I was back in school 50 years ago, we didn't have a whole lot of business classes and mentoring. So I really, really advise that people get out there, and once you start a practice, or even before you open your practice, get in some seminars where somebody, a coach, a mentor, somebody that can help you, guide you through some of the ups and downs that you don't even know are going to exist until you actually get in there and start doing it.
You know, my brain is kind of stuck on the fact that you said 50 years ago, because I know Life University is celebrating their 50th anniversary this year, but I don't think, 43 years sounds so impressive, but then when you put it into perspective, 50 years ago, I mean, that was in the 70s.
Yeah, well, it wasn't quite 50 years ago,
Okay. Okay.
because it took me 3 years to get through school, so it was 46 years ago.
What year did
Close
you
enough, I
graduate?
guess. 81,
From what school?
Palmer.
Wow. Okay, so now putting that in perspective, there are docs on here who were not yet born yet,
Yeah, I know.
right? I teach at Life University. There are students that I teach that weren't even born in 2000 yet.
Yeah.
As
Yes.
crazy as that sounds, they were born in 2001 and they're in chiropractic school right now.
Yeah.
So when you say that you've been in practice for 43 years, it almost sounds normal in a way to those of us that have been in practice for 25 years or more. But to actually put that in perspective, that's a lifetime. And I know that
Yes.
you've seen some amazing chiropractic miracles and had some wonderful stories, probably helped lots of people start families and raise healthy families. But are there some stories that really stick out for you that can maybe inspire some of us?
There are so many of them. I'm doing the grandchildren of my original patient, so I'm into the third generation now. Um, a couple of really interesting ones that I had are, I remember one young lady brought her son in to me. He was having ear infections all the time, just constant. And they were taking him to doctors back and forth and medicating, and she just didn't want to do that. And then they started talking about, of course, putting tubes in his ears. So she brought him into me because she heard that chiropractic possibly could help for this. Well, her husband was just appalled at trying to go to a chiropractor. He just did not believe in it. So she said, I'm going to do this as long as you don't say anything to my husband. I said, I don't even know your husband. So we adjusted this little guy, and he just was doing beautifully. She took him in for his appointment prior to having the tubes put in, and the doctors were testing him, and they said, what is going on? His ears are perfect. He has no problem. There's no need for this young man to have tubes in his ears. So his mother was just elated, and she went home and told her husband what she had been doing kind of behind his back, and he became a patient.
Love that. Love that.
Mhm.
Those are the stories that I think touch my heart the most, because we do have a family like that that has been coming in for 13 years strictly for that exact reason. The boy had recurrent ear infections, and the dad was absolutely not, but he made a deal. If it works for the son, then he would come in, and
Mhm.
13 years later, they're still coming in. There are so many stories like that. It sometimes breaks my heart to realize that tubes in the ear is still one of the most common surgeries for kids, because people just don't know. They don't know what we do. And I do take responsibility. If they don't know what we do in my community, it's my fault because I didn't share that message. But I think that collectively as a profession, when we tell our stories, when we share those messages, when the patient testimonials get shared, hopefully through social media or through, public events or through your patients talking to their close friends and colleagues, then the story gets out, then the chiropractic message gets out, and hopefully we can affect the lives of countless millions of children and families, right?
Correct.
I love it. Do you have time for one more story for us?
Let me think here.
Okay.
I know one, well, actually two brothers. They were quite old. They were like 10 and 12 years old, and they were bedwetters. And of course, at that age, they're just appalled. They can't go to anybody's house. They can't do anything. And mom heard again that possibly we could do something. So she brought these young men into me, and actually probably within a month of adjusting these brothers, they got to spend the night at their friend's house for the first time. And they are in their 40s and still patients, and they have brought their children in to me.
It's life-changing.
That's another one.
I love that. I love that. And you've touched their lives in such a way that this is part of who they are and what they do. This is their lifestyle. This is not something that they think about once in a blue moon, right? This is part of who they are.
Correct. Yeah.
They're
still delightful. They still bring, in fact, the one young man's daughter just got married. So they're already talking that you're still going to be in practice, doc, right? You're not retiring. So we're going to bring our babies in too.
Love that. I love that. They look forward to that. So with the experience you've had, with the time that you've put into the profession, with the life that you've lived and the thousands and thousands of lives that you've changed, for the docs that are watching today, I have one question for you. How do you keep doing it? How do you stay motivated? How do you get up every day? How do you continue to stay focused on serving your community? What is it for you that works?
I love it. I absolutely love my job. I don't know if you're aware, but my daughter is in practice with me, and she's actually the 12th chiropractor in our family. So that's all I've known. We didn't go to doctors as kids. We just do chiropractic. I love it. My uncle was a chiropractor. I think he was 94 years old when he stopped practicing. So
what was his name?
Rex Chef.
Okay. Wow. So your daughter's the 12th chiropractor. Do you recall who was the first chiropractor in your family?
Uncle Rex.
Oh, that's the one. Okay. So then after him, who in your most recent lineage was a chiropractor? Was
most recently?
Was it your
No, my parents were never. It was my uncles. I have my oldest uncle and my youngest uncle on my dad's side. Both became chiropractors, and then the children, cousins in between.
Right. Love it. What a legacy. That's fantastic. Yeah. Now, are all of them practicing in Michigan, or are they scattered around the world?
Oh, they're Michigan, Washington, and Georgia. I think it's Georgia. But other than that, Michigan.
Well, fantastic. I love it. I love to see that legacy. And for those of you that have the chiropractic legacy where your family has generations, it touches my heart. And I love that. And I love the families that I know that have had that, because it's a different paradigm completely. You didn't have to make the shift. You were born into it. Right. And it's wonderful to see. It's wonderful to see that in this profession. So Dr. Jackie, I want to thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And don't forget, we do this every Wednesday. We are back on track. So GCC's Georgia Chiro Connection every Wednesday. But I want you to mark your calendars because we do have a couple events coming up. So let's talk about April 1st. So coming up in April, we have the LCW gathering. That's League of Chiropractic Women. That's down in Clearwater, Florida, down in St. Pete. That's April 4th through the 7th. Now, 2 weeks after that, back in the same location in Clearwater, we have DE. So you can get registered for DE. You can get registered for LCW. Go to lifede.com for all the information. April 18th through the 21st. If you want to find out about the LCW, it's lcwomen.com. Now, we're going to jump into some GCC events coming up in May. We have our annual Cinco de Chiro. That's going to be Saturday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. And then in June, we have our Atlanta CE. Now, listen, we are moving to the Atlanta Marriott Perimeter Center. That's over there by the King and Queen, by the 400, intersection of 285. That's going to be June 22nd and 23rd. You can get all 20 hours right then and there. Now, remember, this is an even year. Therefore, this is your renewal year. So if you did your online last year, this year's got to be in person. But big, mark your calendars because our 7th annual Chiro Cup Golf Tournament is coming up in September. It's going to be Friday, September 13th. You guys asked for a Friday. We got you a Friday. It's at Marietta City Club. All the information is on our website, or you can just simply go to chirocup.com. We're going to ask you to share that with your patients, with your community, on your social media pages for your office so that we can get the word out there, because this is how we raise money that helps GCC support valuable research in chiropractic and helps us bring awareness to the community about what chiropractic is and what chiropractors do. So check out all that information on our website at georgiachiropractic.org. Join us back here next week. And Dr. Jackie, I want to say thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And everybody else, we'll see you next week. Have a great one. Take care.